Hey buddy, it's Peter, and it is August 1st, 2025, but this is the very first 2026 motorcycle that I am reviewing so far. So my goal this year has been to review every single 2025 motorcycle I possibly can, but apparently I need to start saying I'm going to review every 2026 motorcycle I possibly can, because that's what I do on this channel. So if that interests you, make sure you like, subscribe, comment of course, but also if you just find a video you like on this channel, find a couple videos, watch them to the end, that's what helps me the most. So this is a 2026 Kawasaki KLX 300, and of course I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, where they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. So Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals is the Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, excuse me, is the number one volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, and I don't know, maybe that's why they have this so early. Right now, this is not on the website. This is not even priced yet on the website. So right now, at time of filming, I don't know how long this is going to last, you can get the 2026 model for the same price as the 2025 here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. So there's my big pitch. But in this video, what we're going to do is walk through this, review it, and compare it to the current market in 2025/2026. So, all of that to say, let's go on with this review. So if we look at the 2025-2026 marketplace, we know that there's a whole bunch of lightweight adventure bikes stepping into the marketplace, and that to me tells me that this thing should be more popular than ever. This is a dual sport bike, so if we were to place it in a class, it's clearly a dual sport. It's not something you'd want to do an adventure on simply because the gas tank is a little bit small, the seat is less comfortable for adventure but more maneuverable for off-road. So what this basically is a street legal dirt bike, but it's not a street legal racing dirt bike. And what that means is you have good service intervals, you have normal motorcycle type maintenance. It's not something that has to be overly maintained, it's just something that has to be regularly maintained. It's incredibly reliable, and compared to some of the competition, it's actually got good suspension that doesn't need to be revised, and maybe not revised enough. If you've seen some of my other videos on other makes, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about this bike in terms of what it is. In addition to being a dual sport bike that's good on-road and good off-road, it's also a very good kind of first motorcycle or first off-road motorcycle if you're heading towards that adventure type category. It's got a lot of practicalities that a lot of people don't notice. So we're going to talk about all of that and more in this video. Let's start at the front wheel like I always do and work our way through. So if you've seen my reviews before, you're going to hear the broken record part of my review. I always like to start with the front wheel because it tells you the manufacturer's intent for the motorcycle. So what you have here is a true off-road bike. It's a proper 21-inch front wheel and 18-inch rear wheel. Now something like the KLR in this lineup, of course, only has a 17-inch rear wheel. So what that means is basically any tire you could want to get for an off-road bike, they make them in these sizes. It's a 21 front, 18 rear. From the factory, a lot of people complain about dual sport tires, and it really comes down to how you're going to use that bike. When you go off-road, there's mud, there's sand, there's dirt, there's rocks, there's gravel, there's all kinds of different things, and there are tires that are specifically better for certain types of things. So if you look at other reviews on this bike, everybody's going to say the tires are garbage, and they're not. It just depends on what you want to use it for. On the road, these are street legal. That's one thing to keep in mind. If you're swapping out tires, stay with street legal tires because that does make a difference. But off-road, these are the best compromise that most manufacturers put on, and that's what you end up having here. So it's going to be decent off-road, it's going to be decent on-road, but some people look for more grip off-road, and that's a big reason why 21 and 18 tires, 21-inch and 18-inch rims, excuse me, make a big difference. So, spoked rims for strength, single disc because this is a lightweight bike without a whole lot of power. That's all the braking power you need. You got the upside down forks or inverted forks, as some people are asking that I say instead. And what that means is you have less unsprung weight, you have a nice setup here, more stiffness up top, and basically what you have is nothing too fancy. This is still a bit of a price point bike, and that's a good thing, but you have quality components for the class, and that's what you're asking for. All right, let's move back to the heart of this bike, the engine. So taking a look at the heart of this bike, I will say this white color is new for 2026, and to me, the silver colors in here look lighter. I thought the engine was sort of the same as the other color in the past. Now that's going off memory, maybe I'm completely wrong, but this seems lighter to me, lighter color than what you've got here. This is a 292cc liquid-cooled, fuel-injected, basically fully modern engine that's been out for a while. So liquid cooling is nice to have, keeps everything consistent, gives you decent power, especially for a bike like this where you're going to be, cruising slower speed off-road sometimes, cruising faster speed on the highway sometimes, and you want something that's going to stay consistent temperature. So that is a nice feature to have on this bike. It gives you enough power for the highway, but really what you're going to want to do is go from trail to trail, dirt road to dirt road. You can certainly go on those country highways easily with enough power to pass, but once you get up on the main highways, you're going to start running out of power for passing power. It can certainly handle those speeds, but that's worth knowing. The other thing worth mentioning is this is a 6-speed transmission. You have a 5-speed on the KLR. So again, a couple nice little upgrades on the lower priced version of the Dual Sport versus the adventure bike in Kawasaki's lineup. So again, reliability is the key, ease of driving is the other key. That's the big thing with this, is it's a very simple bike to drive. Now, a couple of little things worth mentioning. The suspension out front, about 10 inches of travel. The suspension out back, around 9 inches travel, just over 9 inches of travel. You've got 11 inches of ground clearance here. The frame comes around. It has little extra pieces out here that are going to already protect, so you don't have to put any extra skid plating on here right from day one. You can take it off-road and get it further off-road than probably a new rider is comfortable for. But again, whether you're a new rider or experienced rider, you can have fun on this bike as is from the showroom. So on a bike with almost 11 inches of ground clearance, seat height is a concern for some people. Now, dual sports are different. So let me just jump across here. I'm about 6 feet tall. You can see I'm kind of climbing up to get on this bike. Now, one thing worth noting is with my 175-ish pounds on this, the suspension does squat a little bit to make it fairly easy to reach. I'm almost flat footing here with my heels on the ground, toes on the ground. And the one thing with dual sports you have to watch is because the seat is narrow and the entire bike is narrow, it actually feels much closer to the ground. The other thing worth pointing out is this has a curb weight or a wet weight of 302 pounds. So right around 300 pounds is fairly light for a motorcycle, especially a street legal motorcycle with everything you need. So this thing feels extremely light. And what that means is with a bike that's not as light as this, if it leans over too far, you don't feel like you have the strength to pull it back up. Whereas this one being significantly lighter than the average adventure bike or something like that is very easy to maneuver around. All of that gives you extra safety margin to learn off-road. Again, with the adventure bikes, the small adventure bikes taking off, I think the best thing a lot of riders can do is pick up one of these before you buy an adventure bike and really get your dirt skills down. This thing is a very forgiving bike and very good that way. The other thing worth noting is you can see when I come off and sit down, some bikes in this class really squat. This one clearly has some firmer suspension, so it's still soft for some. If you see reviews of this, generally the guys reviewing bikes like this are heavily experienced dirt riders, and they go out and trash the thing and they say the suspension is soft. While the suspension is soft for an experienced rider, I think it's bang on for a beginning rider and even an intermediate rider for this type of thing. And the one thing it's not is too soft like some competitors in this class. General seating position here, again for a 6-footer here, you can see I'm pretty comfortable. The big thing is you have good balance. It's kind of a good athletic stance. The handlebars are close to you, they're fairly wide, so you've got some control. There is a good standing position. Let's see if I can try to show it here with the side stand up. Standing position is good. Whoa, going over a little bit. So you have nice narrow, knees are locked into the seat. You can move forward on the seat, which is nice. You can really load up the front wheel if you need to. And of course, you also have room for a passenger and you have rear passenger pegs. So if you're just zipping around town with someone, this hasn't got a ton of power, but it can certainly take 2 people around town, no problem. So you can make it really useful to just have some fun zipping around town, which this bike is really great in, but it's also, of course, great off-road. Gives you all of the things you need to get going off-road while still being street legal to go home or go to any trails that you want. That's kind of what you want in a dual sport bike, and this thing nails it. One thing we have to talk about with the KLX 300 is some of the practicality. So above this exhaust here with a very small opening there, it is a quiet exhaust. It's worth pointing that out because a lot of people like their dirt bikes nice and loud. What I kind of like about this dual sport bike is you can zip down trails and not disturb people. You can come home late at night, that kind of thing. You're not disturbing anyone. So again, some people are going to put on a louder, more aggressive tailpipe or that kind of thing. But as is, it's kind of unobtrusive, which can be kind of nice depending on where you ride. So that's worth mentioning there. But we're going to zoom into a couple little things that they used to put on bikes in the 1980s, and they are still on this bike. We're going to try to focus in a little bit on that if I can. You will see these two little pegs there. That allows you to strap some things down. Now you may notice above there's no rack here. The aftermarket, or I even think Kawasaki accessories, can allow you to put a little rack on the back there. This can be a very practical bike to do your round town riding in, to take maybe a school bag, you know, whatever you're taking to work, that kind of thing. You can take your stuff with you there. So there's lots of options to make this practical, including putting on a little helmet holder on the other side. There's a little bracket in between here on the other side, so you can hang your helmet on the opposite side of the exhaust here. So kind of a nice little feature to have that you don't always see on other bikes, but again, still very dirt bike-like. I should point out as well, down over here is your passenger peg. Hopefully we can see that clearly as well. Try to get that in there. And just a little simple, very stiff right now, passenger peg right there. Of course, steel, everything else there is steel, but you do have a little tie down area there, which also keep the passengers away from the exhaust. Like I said, very stiff. That's not gonna fall down by accident, but you do have the ability to take a passenger. All right, let's take a look at the dash now. So if you've come to this bike looking for the most luxurious dash, you're not gonna get it, but you are gonna get, again, something nicer than what is on the upmarket KLR in Kawasaki's lineup. So what you have here is a tachometer. Who knew? Something simple as a tachometer is not available in the KLR, even in 2025. We'll see about the 2026 model, but I would not expect it. 10,500 RPM redline. So this is a single cylinder engine that can really rev, and that makes it kind of fun, gives a little bit of character. What I like about the tach is it's spread out, it's easy to read. You can tell at a glance where you are without having to read the number. So that's good off-road, on-road, you can just glance down at it. You do have a clock up here permanently, the odometer is there. Of course, the speed right there as well. There's no gear indicator, but that's okay. You're gonna be learning on this thing and you'll be able to tell what gear you're in. All right, quickly cycle through the modes here. Trip A, Trip B, and that's it. Just Trip A, Trip B, and the odometer there. You have a reset button there. You've got warning lights for the engine, the fuel, temperature, signal light, neutral, and signal lights over here, headlights over there, and all the basics of everything you need for on and off-road. And it is clear and easy to read day or night, which is a strong point because sometimes bikes are trying to get too modern and too fancy, and they end up with legibility issues in the dash. So, totally fine dash, gives you what you need. Let's look at the controls really quickly. Take a look at the clutch side controls here. First of all, nice light clutch, easy to feel, like just very good clutch for this class of bike. Headlight, high beam, low beam, signal light, off, and horn. Everything you need, nothing you don't. No hazard warning light or anything like that that you would get on a typical adventure bike. Just the basics on here. Let's zip across for a second, the handlebar there. If you wanted to mount something like your phone or whatever else, there's lots of options to do that on a bike like this. Just keep in mind, it is a dirt bike. It's gonna be probably a little harder, so you wanna have something secure your phone very well. I like to keep my phone in my pocket, so you guys can decide what you wanna do. Over here on the other side, kill switch and start switch. And that's it. Nothing fancy here, typical controls here. The other thing worth pointing out, and I know this is sort of silly, typical round mirrors, you can put on whatever kind of things you want, but these are inexpensive to replace, and they are inboard of the handlebar. So if you were to fall over here, you don't necessarily right away take off a mirror, which I think is kind of nice. One other thing that's nice and worth pointing out is older KLRs, older KLXs, the KLX 300s, used to have a non-LED headlight. This one is LED, high beam, low beam. It's gonna give you a little whiter light. Nice thing about white light, the LED color of light, is it does make it a little easier to identify the difference between, say, a rock and a rabbit or something like that on the trail, just because this is closer to daylight color. So your brain is used to seeing things with this kind of coloring around them. Sometimes that can make it better. I'm gonna be honest, these aren't the absolute best lights out there, but they're good for safety. The extra bright light as well will help keep you safer. Signal lights are still incandescent, front and rear. Tail light, I believe, is, let me just check here. Yes, it is. Oh, maybe it's not an LED. No, I think it's, oh, now I'm gonna have to check for you. It is incandescent. So just the headlight is LED, everything else is incandescent. So cheap bulbs, more expensive bulb, but also not something you're gonna have to likely replace. There is your lighting review. So let's talk about who this bike is for in the context of 2026. The KLX 300 is entering a marketplace where small adventure bikes are really out there now, and they never used to be out there like they are now, or like they will be in 2026. So I think this places this bike in an interesting position because I think a lot of people are leaning towards some of those smaller adventure bikes and maybe don't have the skills. one of the great options to do is to buy a dual sport like this first, get used to riding in the dirt, and then decide if you want a small adventure bike, mid-size adventure bike, or something different. I think this is a really good couple-year bike for those people looking to enter off-road riding and really wanting to get better at it, but still have that adventure experience on and off-road. You can experience that with this bike. The other thing is, this is a great beginner bike. It's lightweight. It's low on power, so it's not going to overwhelm you, or if you make mistakes by dumping the clutch or something like that, it's not going to, wheelie out of there for you. It's an easy bike to ride, easy to learn on, and it is fun around town, around country roads, that kind of thing. And of course, you have the versatility to head off-road, so it's a great beginner bike as well. The other thing this bike is good for is a secondary bike. Maybe you don't want an adventure bike, but you live near some cool trails or cool other things. You can keep your road bike, do that, and add this for a relatively inexpensive second purchase as a secondary bike. Take it off-road, get your adventuring out of the way, near your home, that kind of thing, and enjoy this. And it's also a great bike that you can kind of share with other people. If you have other riders in your family or in your friend circles that maybe aren't the best riders, this thing is super easy, and you guys can go out together on that as well. So there's a lot of market for this, but I really think the change in 2026 is that small adventure bike. You have that adventure bike crowd stepping into closer to the dual sport market, and I still think that this should become more popular with that move rather than less popular, as people want to learn their dirt skills on a lightweight, capable bike that has just the basics. If you drop it, you don't care, the same way you would with an adventure bike. So that's where I think this sits in 2026. Like I mentioned, this is not on the website yet here. It's the new color, obviously. This is available at Jim Gilbert's Power Sports for the 2025 price. My experience is every single time there's a new model out in Kawasaki, it's going up a couple bucks. So this is probably one of the best times to buy this bike, because it will still be a 2026 a year from now, which will be the current model year, and you'll have a year use out of it. And if you need to move on from it, got a brand new bike here ready to move on from. So there is an option for you. There's the thing, and like I said, they're having more white ones come in. There's a green one still here, so it still has the green color scheme. It's got a little bit of blue where this one's green now for 2026, but the white ones are also available, and they are on order right now. So there you go. There's the information that I have on this bike. I believe there are no changes. Like I said, no real information out on this bike, but just from glancing at it, seems to be identical to 2025. There's your review. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you in the next one.